All right. Good evening, Toby, and those who will be joining us
Good
soon.
evening, Rabbi. Now,
Good
now,
to see
now
you.
I have to really pay attention.
Uh, there was one week I think where I had to reschedule, and I knew it wasn't going to work. But I just needed to get it in, and I was just talking to myself on Zoom. So this is still one better.
I don't
Um,
know why. I would think this would be a good night because there's no conflicting classes at the shul.
right, right. Usually, the issue is that Thursday night is a cooking night for Shabbos,
Right.
so now
Some
we don't
evenings
have.
horrible.
I don't know,
Some
but
very happy
okay.
tonight.
All right, but we're here, so let's do this. We're on Chav Zayin Beis, 27b. We're at Tanya Rabbi Eliezer. Okay,
Oh, give me a chance. Hold on.
sure, quarter way
Okay.
down.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's near the bottom of B1. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So just the context of this is that Rabbi Eliezer and the Chacham have a machlokas whether you should be using the same sukkah for all of sukkahs, or like the Chachamim say, it's just about having a sukkah that's ra'oi to with stay up 7 days, but you don't need to use the same sukkah. So Tani, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Kishem she'in adam yotzi lichavas b'yom tov harishon shel chag l'lavel shel chavero dichsev l'kachtem lechem b'yom harishon pri tzadar kavas mer mishalchem. So basically, the same way that you are expected to own your lulav on the first day of Sukkot, it's not sufficient to borrow it. Kach ein adam yotzi lichavas b'sukkasa shel chavero dichsev chag asukos tatzah chashivas yamim mishalcha. The same idea here is that we can infer from the pasuk that also you have to own your sukkah that you are using to be yotzei the mitzvah. And it says 7 days. So that means not just the first day, but all 7 days. That's Rabbi Eliezer's proof text. Now, what would the Chachamim respond? The Chachamim omrim, even
Slower,
though
Rabbi.
they also,
Slower, slower.
oh,
Just a
sorry,
little slower.
it's just like a long phrase, but yeah. So the sages say, even though one person, even though you cannot be yotze, you're chiyuv on the first day with a lulav that you do not own personally. Avol yotze yidei chovaso, but you will fulfill your obligation b'sukaso shel chavera with your friend sukkah t'chsiv kol ha'ezrach b'Yisrael yeshu b'sukos. So Ezrach refers to those who are the citizens, those who dwell there. Malame shekol Yisrael ru'uyim leishi b'sukkah achas. This teaches us that every sukkah is worthy of all the Jewish people living in it. Tosfos points out not all at the same time, obviously, because we can't all fit in there at the same time. But I think there's a lot of darshaning, like a lot of people like to give drushos. I think there's a lot of drushos that come out of this line, right? It sounds very kumbaya, right? It's like everyone's living in the same sukkah together, one big family. You can imagine where people go with that.
But Rabbi,
Um,
quick question. I mean,
yeah,
here, at least in the art school, it says, i.e., they can fulfill their obligation to dwell in the sukkah by sitting in one communal sukkah. Isn't
right.
there a difference between communal and a sukkah that belongs to your friend?
So I think basically for our purposes, we're seeing it as a binary. Either you own it or you don't own it.
Mhm.
But it's an interesting point you bring up because when we think about Eruve Chatzeros, when you have a courtyard, we all chip in theory, we all chip in for the box of bread or matzahs. And so, right, you are correct in halacha. We oftentimes do have that kind of middle tier of a communal area, um, but it seems what the Chachamim are doing here is that they are understanding it as communal to the exclusion of you having to be the personal owner over it. Okay, it's a good deal. There's a long Tosas here, so maybe it's somewhere in there. I only briefly scanned over it. All right, now let's see what we're up to. For Rabbanan, Hi Lecha, my Darshive, but doesn't say Lecha in the Pasuk. Rabbi Eliezer has a very great diak. It says Lecha. That sounds like you have to own it. So what do the Rabbanan do with the word Lecha? Ivaile lemuute gezula, to the exclusion of a stolen sukkah. Alo she'ula ksiv kol ha'ezrach. But whereas she'ula is concerned, the words kol ha'ezrach tell us that you can use a borrowed sukkah. And you might be asking, wait, I thought hamitzvah b'avera, etc., etc. So in the third paragraph of Sukkah, we're going to talk about stolen lulavim and stolen sukkahs, and we'll get into those details there, God willing. So for Rabbi Eliezer, Hi Kol Ezrach my Avile, right? Because the issue is that we have the word lecha in the pasuk, which is exclusive, and we have the words Kol HaEzrach, which is inclusive. So the Rabbanan, who take a more inclusive approach, have to figure out what to do with the word lecha. Rabbi Eliezer has to figure out what to do with the words Kol HaEzrach. So what does he do with the words Kol HaEzrach? My Avidle, Ivaile, Lager Shniskayr Bein Time, Vakatish Iskal Bein Time, that if someone converts in middle of Sukkot, or a boy who becomes bar mitzvah in middle of Sukkot, he sees two pubic hairs. So then, even though at the beginning of Yom Tif he wasn't yet chayiv in the mitzvah, and he doesn't have seven consecutive days of fulfilling the mitzvah of Sukkah, nonetheless, it would still count for him. That's what Kol Ezrach comes to include. We did this a while ago. There's a Minchas Chinuch which raises a similar question about what about a ger who converts, or what about a child who becomes bar mitzvah during Sfira? So can they count with the bracha? So it gets that whole question. Do you look at Sfira as one unit? They missed the first few days. That means they can't count with the bracha? Or do we look at it as each and every day is a mitzvah bifnei atzmo? So that's kind of a similar conversation that results from this. But finishing this up, Rabbanan kivan amru osis suk b'chol shamoed lo itzrich kra. And the Rabbanan, since we established in the previous year that they hold that you can even make a sukkah on Chol Moed, you could sit in a sukkah on Chol Moed. They didn't need a pasuk to prove this point. So that's how the rabbis and that's how Rabbi Eliezer find proof text to support their points. Okay. End of that section. Now we're going to be talking about the mitzvah of visiting one's Rebbe on Chol Moed. Tan Rabbanan. Ma'asav Rabbi Eloi shahalach lahakol pnei at Rabbi Eliezer Rabba B'lo Baragel. So what happened was that Rabbi Eloi went to greet his Rebbe, Rabbi Eliezer. Went to greet Rabbi Eliezer, his Rebbe, in Lud on Sukkot. Amar lo, Eloi eincha mishovsei haragel. Are you not from those who dwell at home on the holiday? Meaning, you should be at home. Why are you visiting me? Shahai Rabbi Eliezer Omer, for Rabbi Eliezer was the one who taught. I praise the lazy people who just stay at home and don't go on Chol Moed. No, I'm kidding. He means that you should be spending literally in your sukkah. He's all about spending time in your sukkah. So this is a proof text, spending time with the family, and we'll see how he elaborates on that. That's it. It says in the Torah, you shall celebrate you and your household, referring to your wife and referring to possibly the family. Any though, is this really true? From whence do we know that one is obligated to visit his Rebbe on the holiday? Shenemar, this is basically from Elisha, in which he asks her, why are you visiting on a time? Well, I'll read it. Why are you visiting him, your Elisha, on a day that's not Rosh Chodesh or Shabbos? Now, it doesn't say a holiday explicitly, but we can infer a holiday is on a higher madrega than Rosh Chodesh than Rosh Chodesh. So, so why is Rabbi Eliezer reprimanding Rabbi Eloi for visiting on a holiday when there is a well-known halacha to visit one's Rebbe on the holiday? So lo kashya, hada also v'asibiyome, hada also v'lo asibiyome. Difference is whether you can visit your Rebbe and make it back on time for dinner with your family, or whether you would not be able to. So if you can visit your Rebbe and as a day trip and then make it back to your family, that's wonderful. But if not, then no. So even though we don't I don't think we pass like this halachically, but there's certainly a moral message. Again, some good drasha material there. All right. Now, preservation of characters. We bring them back, sort of. Tana Rabbanan. Maisa, once again, Rabbi Eliezer. This time he was the one doing the traveling. Sheshavas begalil ha'elyom b'sukaso shel Yochanan ben Rabbi Eloi. So now it's Rabbi Eliezer visiting the son of Rabbi Eloi, who was the visitor originally. B'Kesari v'Amilat b'Kesarion. Okay, one of those two places. V'Gia Chama l'Sukkah, and the son was beating down on the sukkah. Amarlo, Mahu she'efros aleh sadin Should I cover the schach of the sukkah so that the sun will not bother you? Amar lo, he kind of changes the topic of the conversation with a non sequitur, seemingly. Ein lecha kol sheva sheva Yisrael shalohimid mimenu shofet. There was no shaven amongst the Jewish people that did not have their own shofet. Higia cham lachati sukkah. The sun reached half the amount of the sukkah. Amar lo, maush efros sanan. Now, do you want me to cover it? Amar lo, he still seems to deflect and ignore him. There's no tribe of the Jewish people that did not produce their own prophets. And Shevet Yehuda ben Yamin had midu malach malti neviim. And Shevet Yehuda ben Yamin had prophets that are produced by neviim. Again, seemingly a non sequitur. Higia chama l'margelosa Rabbi Eliezer. Eventually, the sun even reached the feet of Rabbi Eliezer. It was inside the whole sukkah. Natal Yochanan Sadin, Upeir Salaham. So then Rav Yochanan goes ahead and he covers the sukkah to protect them from the sun. Hifshil Rabbi Eliezer Taliso Lachar. Rabbi Eliezer, I kind of like to imagine like he throws his talis back in like a harumph, and then he leaves the sukkah, the yatza. Now, lo b'nei flee with varm. Now, it's not because he didn't want to really address what what Rav Yochanan's question was. Ella, he had a particular minhag. He would never tell over something that he did not receive in a Masorah from his Rebbe. A particularly unique practice that he had. So Heichi Avid Hachi, Amar Eliezer, and Yosef Sukkah Sukkah. Now, after all this is being said, why do we bring up this whole entire story? To get to this question. How is it that Rabbi Eliezer, right? The whole story begins with Rabbi Eliezer traveling to Rabbi Yochanan's sukkah. Wait a minute, I thought Rabbi Eliezer was the one who said, stay home on Yontif. So either Regel Acher Havi, it wasn't the Yontif of Sukkot, it was just another Yom Tov, and they sat in huts at other points of the year. I thought Rabbi Eliezer praised those and said you're supposed to stay home on all the holidays. So Shabbos Havi. This all took place on a Shabbos, apparently. Okay. Yes.
I know this is not your kind of thing, but I just got a text. It says from Ambassador Friedman, urgent tefillah is needed. A forward from Rav Dov Cook Shlita asked if everyone could please stop what they are doing now and say the following Prokhmep Tehillim. There is a serious situation going on right now. They found hostages and are fighting neck to neck. Then he said he lists the Tehillim to say, Besoro Tovot, please forward to as many contacts as possible. Or whatever you decide, Rabbi. We could, I'm sure we could do it after, but I couldn't ignore it.
Sure. We'll finish the Gemara and there's Chus as well, and we'll say a parakut Tehillim at the end. Okay. Is that good? Okay.
Yeah.
So we should have them in mind in the Chus of our learning as well, and then we'll say the parakut Tehillim. Okay. So just to wrap up the Gemara, one last brief point. B'tifshotle mididei. Now the question is, Rabbi Eliezer, how is it possible that Rabbi Eliezer, his whole, I don't want to say excuse, that seems to have almost a negative connotation, was that he didn't give a psak that was not supported by something he received from his Rebbe. So, but the thing is that Rabbi Eliezer did give a very similar psak. Now, we didn't mention what was Rabbi Eliezer opposed to with covering the schach. Actually, it seems to be not a Hilchos Sukkah issue, but a Hilchos Shabbos issue. This comes up with what do you call it? With strollers on Shabbos. This is what I learned after we got our stroller, which is that there's a question about the canopy on a stroller. It constitutes possibly an ohel arai. You're not allowed to make a tent on Shabbos, but this is a temporary tent. But even a temporary tent is also an Isser D'Rabbanan. The question is, can you be Mosif on an ohel arai? If there's already a little bit of it up, can you then extend it? And that's usually what we say is okay. So it comes up in the following case. It's not pakak hachalon. It's about a case where basically you have the cover that's going to go, they didn't exactly have the fancy window shades that we have today, but you want to kind of like stick something in to insert into the window to cover it up. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Bismancha Kasher Toy poking bo Dimlav ain't poking bo. When you have I don't have a good what's the term they use in the art school? Give me a good English term for it.
For what word?
Just what they're inserting into the window. Some kind of cover or something. Only in the bottom of 27B.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the word.
Yeah.
They just keep using the word shutter.
Okay,
But
whatever, shutter. You're sticking something in to cover up the window. So Rabbi Eliezer says that's okay as long as whatever you're using to shutter it is connected to the window in some initial fashion. In either regards, you're allowed to cover it up. Now the question is, wouldn't this case of the chalon be analogous to the case of the sukkah? The same way Rabbi Eliezer says you can be mosif on an ohel arai, you can add to it because it's already partially connected. So too, you should be able to take the canopy that's already a little bit on top of the sukkah and then just spread it the rest of the way over. So the distinction is the difference is that in this case, the shutter, whatever you want to call it, is already connected. It's attached to the window in some fashion. But here, with this drape that you're going to put over the sukkah, Rashi says, the canopy that's on the sukkah is going to be moved. You're going to take it off at some point. It's not attached. It's not a firm part of the sukkah. So that's the distinction of Rabbi Eliezer, and that's why he did not have a definitive psak and avoided the question altogether. All right. Let me grab.
I have to tell you, it was followed up by Vivi Darren sent a follow-up text saying she knows that's not true. It's fake news. It was somebody from the class she gives who posted that, and Vivi responded, I don't know what the truth is. I
don't know where people come up with all this. That's why I say I have all these WhatsApp groups. I would still say kapitel to him anyway. Why not? We missed today. Let me grab a second. Doesn't hurt to say kapitel. Just one.
Okay, I happen to have here. Hold on. Which one is on my phone? Can we do Kuf Chaf Bet 122?
All right, seems like a good choice to me. All right, everyone have their Kuf Chaf Beis 122. All right. Share malos to David Samach Yibamli Beis Adonai Nelev. Om dos Hayiraglenu Bisharayich Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim Havnuya Kir Shechubra Lo Yachdav. Tisham Alushvatim Shifteya Edus Yisrael Lahodos Hashem Adonai. Tisham Ayashu Chisos Mishpat Chisos Veis David. Shalosh Om Yushalayim Yishala Avayich. Yehi Shom Mechir Shava Barmosayich. The Manach Iber Davar No Shalom Bach. Lam Beis Adonai Lechino Vaksha Tov Lach. All right, we share Besaros Tovos.
That was nice, yeah.
Of course. All right, thank you to Toby and looks like Erwin and Phyllis were on as well. I see your names there. And all right, thank you for logging on, and to the rest of our friends hearing this post recording, thank you for listening as well. Wishing everyone a good Shabbos and for those fasting an easy tinus.
You too.